Time for a Flippy update.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
Yeah, Flippy update. Flippy is the colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use Talking About Flippy to examine how the robots are taking over everything and how there's nothing we can do about it, but how Bible prophecy tells us or foretold of such days, which brings us closer to the return of Jesus. And today, as per the theme here, we got a couple things going on. First off, Gizmodo here. Headline: watch live as 2 Russian cosmonauts outfit a robot arm outside the ISS. And they have the YouTube link here that shows a live stream of this alleged... Oops, little kid talking. That's not what we want. Let's see. They were doing it earlier. Let's see if I can scroll back. There you go. For those of you watching. Yeah, I guess these are 2 Russian cosmonauts doing stuff, building a robot arm. And I gotta say, it just looks like it's really deep underwater. I've always said that, stuff in space looks like stuff in water to me. And you know how they do training underwater. But, the one thing that's different is you don't really see bubbles. Although, there have been video that suggest maybe some bubbly looking type of things going on. But this is one of those things where, given the geopolitical context of what's happening, is very fascinating because we've always said how, despite all the geopolitical tensions, what we're doing allegedly up there is very much, cooperative between nations. Until recently, this is the first time Russia, the 2 Russians say they're leaving the ISS, which I don't know if that's happened. I know they announced their departure, but it almost seems like they are, the teams are taking place where, you're splitting up. You're not just one thing in space anymore. You're creating teams. We're back to the space race, except it's, it's Mars race or it's, a space infrastructure race or something like that. Technology race, the virtual panopticon race. Who can build the virtual panopticon the fastest? Or, Skynet, for those of you who are maybe new to all this kind of stuff. And, it's just fascinating to see that all this work, all this money and attention and everything else to build robot arms in space. And for what? I don't know. There's lots of people struggling to find a meal, tomorrow's meal, a place to sleep here on Earth, but we continue to just pour in billions of dollars into machines that allegedly, with the promise of helping humanity, doing things that are a little more frivolous. But that's just my opinion. People have made arguments about why space exploration is so important and all that kind of thing. But the robot arms in space, not alone, because there's robot arms down here too. New York Post headline: robot that stocks drink is newest thing at the corner store. Yay. And this is by the Associated Press. We see stories like this all the time, and we often skip it because we've covered sort of the general things about robots that do this kind of thing. But in the last episode, we did a little history of Flippy and, just where it came from and all the stuff that happened in the 1900s. And it answered one of the questions more specifically that Basil has had in the past about, hey, why is Japan always so into robots? And culturally they are, they're very much involved. They got the giant Gundam that we've covered and stuff like that. So they really like robots over there. The elderly are interacting with nursing robots and emotional support robots. And so all that's happening out there already. And so this type of thing is more foreshadowing of what is coming to the rest of the world. Here's what New York Post says. Tokyo. A small robot with a clip-like hand and enough smarts to know which drinks are popular is part of an effort to make convenience stores even more convenient. On a recent day in Tokyo, the robot named TX Scara, which I think we've covered a long time ago, slid back and forth behind the refrigerated shelves in the back of a Family Mart store. The hand on the end of the mechanical arm grasped a bottle arm grasped a bottle or can from the stacks to the side. Then the robot slithered like a snake, to the right spot and placed the drink on the shelf. in a place chosen after its artificial intelligence and tiny cameras matched the kind of beverage to what's running short. TX Skara is filling a need. TX Skara is filling a needed role in Japan's kombini. Oh, is that short for a convenience store? Yeah, it is. I didn't know that they said that. Kombini. As the ubiquitous tiny stores selling snacks, drinks, and knickknacks are called. Most such stores are open 24/7, filled with 3,000 kinds of products, but have relatively few workers. The beverage shelves in the back are furthest from the cash register, keeping workers running back and forth. Oh, the inconvenience. And the beverage space is refrigerated, uncomfortably cold for people to stay there too many hours. Yeah. TX Skara, which goes at an undisclosed price, can restock up to 1,000 bottles and cans a day. Its artificial intelligence, called Gordon, knows when and where products need to be placed on shelves, according to a Tokyo-based teleexistence, which created TX Skara. Quote, "We want to automate all the repetitive jobs and boring jobs done by humans. That is the direction we are going. And the best way to do it is to use the robots," Chief Executive Jin Tomioka said. Industrial robots are already common in factories because of the infiltration that we talked about. But Tomioka's 50-employee company sees great potential at warehouses and home centers, he says. His robots are far more affordable than industrial robots, such as those at auto plants, but can prove just as crucial for social needs. Designed to coexist and collaborate with people, helping out with routine and rudimentary tasks. So there you go. It's another robot. It's just helping out the people. It's just making the kombinis more convenient. And again, I'm telling you guys, we're going to start seeing this in America. What's the biggest convenience store or, this kind of 24/7 place there is out there? I guess the most popular one is Circle K or probably 7-Eleven. I don't know how long it'll take because the US is a little more stubborn when it comes to this kind of thing, but I can picture a franchise picking up on this fairly quickly and taking advantage of this type of technology. And so keep an eye out for that. They're flipping burgers. They're doing surgeries. They're doing COVID tests in China. I mean, the robot arms are doing everything nowadays. And so I think the big thing here is the affordability. Most companies, that's a big commitment to, fire employees or, having to take salary away from human beings and instead giving it to robots. And, the cost efficiency long term is probably pretty good because it's like, you got to spend a little more up front, but long term, it's a lot cheaper. You save a lot more money as a convenience store. But, that kind of thing does allow for humans to lose their jobs. Although, I saw that McDonald's story. I didn't bring it to the show, but there was some story about California saying, you got to pay employees more. And McDonald's is like, that's going to devastate everything. It's going to affect everyone. And I'm wondering if McDonald's is going to be one of those companies that picks up on this because, we got to pay the employees more. California forcing McDonald's to pay their employees more. But that means we're going to hire less. And so, using that money difference there, we'd rather spend the money up front to buy a robot arm that flips our burgers or restocks the food in the back or whatever it may be. And in that context, it all makes sense because you need kind of a crisis in order to push everybody into robots. When COVID happened, the lockdown happened, the very first episode where we went full, multi-hour, multi-times a week Canary Cry NewsTalk, we said, this is a great opportunity for robots because everything's shutting down. And how are we going to keep society running? Robots, whether they're in space, allegedly, or in convenience stores. So there you go. That's our Flippy update. It's not kind of a mundane one, but it's hard to top some of the things we've covered recently, especially in the last episode where we dug into the history. But I thought it was okay because it goes from, the history of Flippy to the more practical, just your everyday type of information like this, where, again, it goes from a cocktail meeting between two fellas to convenience stores in 2022, So there you go. That's our brief Flippy update.